Good afternoon. My name is Eric Dean. I am married to Lorraine, Barbara's daughter, and so I've been a son-in-law for 40 years now. I'll be overseeing the service today. Remind you to perhaps put your phones on silent if you haven't already had a chance to do that. Today's celebration of life is being broadcast to those who couldn't be here, so thank you to all of those who may be joining us. And it is being recorded for future viewing. So thanks and for being here, those of you who could make it. A few years ago, for Al's funeral, Barb had asked me to read the 23rd Psalm. So we'd like to open with that today. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Lorraine will come up now to share some thoughts from her and Carol about their mother.
On behalf of our family, I'd like to thank everyone who is here, as well as watching our celebration today. We've had lots of lovely messages and conversations over the past month, and I'd like to share some thoughts on behalf of my sister, Carol, and myself, and also share some of the stories and memories told to us by family and friends. Today we gather to celebrate the life of our beloved mother, a remarkable woman who exemplified strength, courage, resilience, compassion, and generosity. As we sit here in this moment of reflection and remembrance, it's impossible not to feel the profound impact that she has had on each of us. Mom's journey was a testament to her indomitable spirit. From a young age, she faced significant health challenges. She battled rheumatic fever twice as a child, often limiting her to only attend half days at school. Later, at the tender age of 16, she developed pneumonia, which further damaged a valve in her heart. However, in a remarkable display of bravery, at just 19 years old, she chose to undergo a high-risk, life-saving operation to repair her heart. Mom was one of the first to endure this type of heart surgery, and her decision reflected the very essence of who she was, courageous and relentless. The journey to recovery was long and challenging. Doctors recommended that she adopt a predominantly sedentary lifestyle, a life of constraints. She grappled with the decision to either raise children without having a job or pursue a career without starting a family. But that wasn't who our mother was. She chose a different route. She embraced her role as a dedicated mother while also building a successful career. She embodied the belief that life can be lived beyond the limitations imposed by others. Mom married our dad at 25, and by the time she turned 29, they had welcomed both my sister and me into the world. During her pregnancies, the doctors were notably concerned about her heart condition and prescribed antibiotics throughout, as any infection could have posed a serious threat to her health. In our early years, our mother dedicated herself to being at home with us. Eventually, she returned to work, proving that she could balance both roles with grace and determination. She began a journey that would leave an indelible mark on her life. Mom worked first for her brother Victor at his variety store in the early 70s, an institution during the time when such stores were the heart of the community. Later, she joined him at his Baskin-Robbins franchise. Her talents shone brightly as she crafted beautiful ice cream cakes for customers. She poured her heart into her work, practicing her cake icing skills until they were nothing short of perfection. She spent her days serving customers with flair. Our mother truly cherished the time she spent working alongside her brother Victor. When he embarked on his next venture in Listowel, she seized the opportunity to join Gulco International, where our Aunt Mary had also been employed. Mom dedicated the rest of her career to the accounting department, eventually taking on a leadership role and striving for excellence and camaraderie. Throughout the years, she assumed increasing responsibilities and became a highly valued employee, earning the respect and trust of management. She took great pride in her work, built lasting friendships, and shared her knowledge with others, leaving an enduring impact on her colleagues. It was heartwarming to witness the continued connection she maintained with her friends from Gulco, even after her retirement 25 years ago. These friendships flourished through regular visits, phone calls, and emails. Additionally, every year she received a Christmas package filled with all sorts of goodies from Gulco, often hand-delivered by Dina, one of her colleagues and friends who stayed in touch all these years and who considered Mom one of her mentors. And Dina, thanks for being here with us today. In addition to work, Mom's heart was always open to caring for others. She was very generous with her heart and with her time. When my sister Carol and I were young, she tended to our elderly neighbors, Mr. and Miss Dunn. They were brother and sister. Mom helped them for years, assisting whenever she could. This was a perfect example of Mom's nurturing heart, always ready to lend a hand or provide a smile. When we moved to our house on Balaclava Drive in Scarborough, Mom continued taking care of others, and there were many. One particular memory shared by her friend Diane illustrates this perfectly. Diane met Mom over 20 years ago when they were neighbors in Scarborough. Mom was in the habit of pedaling a bicycle around the neighborhood, and that's when she met Diane. They met because of a mutual neighbor who had dementia, and Mom was concerned about her well-being. So between Diane and Mom, they made a decision to try to get more involved to help her where they could. That's when Diane and Mom became close friends. While helping their neighbor, they began to have lots of wonderful talks about spiritual things. Mom said she was happy, but felt something was missing in her life. At this point, Diane invited Mom to join the gospel meetings she attended, which Mom said she'd love to. They also discovered that one of Mom's bosses at Gulco was part of the group as well. It seemed like destiny, and Mom joined the meetings. Diane recalls how much Mom enjoyed them, and that she eventually made a commitment in her heart to serve God, which brought her so much peace and joy. Thank you, Diane, for sharing that story with us. Mom continued to have a relationship with both Diane and her whole family after they moved to Nova Scotia and enjoyed their friendship immensely. It was through their love for helping others that Mom's involvement in a new community blossomed, grounding her in faith and purpose. It's also worth noting that Mom gave Diane the bike that Mom was riding when they first met. Diane has it as a lawn ornament filled with flowers in the basket, and she and her family remember Mom whenever they see it. Another instant of Mom's caring attitude involves shopping. Mom loved shopping. And because she never learned to drive, she would hop on the bus to the Scarborough Town Centre or Eglinton Square or the like. But what she loved to buy more than anything was gifts for others. When she would prepare for Christmas, for example, she would buy each of her grandchildren 3 options for every gift. She loved to buy clothes, so after trying each of 3 outfits on, we could decide which ones fit and which ones to take back to the store. Then she would hop back on the bus and take all of the no's for a refund. It's hard to describe how much pleasure she got out of this. There were so many gifts at Christmas that Andrew and Alex would need to take a break from it all before finishing. To backtrack a bit, Mom was born in Toronto and raised with 5 brothers. She was the only daughter and held court, so to speak. She had a close relationship with each of them, Bill, Victor, Bertie, Alan, and Ron, and cared about them all, and later gained more family in her sisters-in-law, Grace, Mary Ann, Gloria, Bernice. Always keeping in touch, Mom knew what was happening in everyone's lives, and I'm told is the glue that kept everyone together. Later in life, she also kept in touch with her nieces and nephews in much the same manner, always interested in everyone's lives. In 2017, Mom and Dad made the move to Barrie, where they bought a condo in a seniors building and continued to enjoy the retirement. Dad became involved in a community tool shop and attending meetings where everyone gathered to discuss various projects. They went to dinner events hosted by the condo and took every opportunity to go out and discover Barrie, often to shop for their groceries, gifts, and other essentials. Meanwhile, Mom remained active in her faith community. The local group reached out to her, inviting her to a new chapter with new people. She eagerly began attending meetings twice a week. She was deeply devoted, dedicating much of her time to studying the Bible and preparing for those meetings. Through her involvement, she formed many new close friendships, many of whom are with us today. When the in-person gospel meetings paused due to COVID, the group adapted by connecting through email and teleconference. For Mom, COVID posed a significant risk due to her lung condition, and although she couldn't participate in person, she remained engaged. Every week, she submitted her testimony via email, only missing a few instances when it was absolutely unavoidable. Mom often stayed up late to ensure her testimony was thorough. Over time, studying the Bible became more challenging for Mom due to her low vision. She relied on corrective lenses as well as a magnifying glass to assist her in completing her tasks. Despite these obstacles, she was resolute and committed to her spiritual pursuits, going above and beyond to achieve her goals. Beyond the spiritual benefits, we believe that this dedication also provided her with a sense of purpose. Reading, studying, and interpreting the scriptures gave her life meaning and drive. After Dad passed away in 2021, Mom continued to live in the condo on her own. Her courage and strength were truly remarkable. Having not lived alone for over 60 years, she never voiced any complaints or fears. Instead, she calmly adapted to her new situation. A year later, at the age of 88, it became clear that living alone was no longer a safe option for her, so we chose Serenity Retirement Residence. It is a small retirement home known for its excellent care. Mom's health improved there, and she made new friends as well. She especially enjoyed game days, including bingo and beanbag toss, where she showcased her skills and often emerged as a winner. Mom lit up the room with her excitement, frequently exclaiming, "Whoopee!" whenever someone won. Mom, of course, loved to win the prizes herself, and you could tell whether she had won by her answer to, how was bingo? "Well, I didn't win a thing," or "I won 3 games today." But though she loved to win prizes, she also loved to give the prizes away to others. On the rare occasions when she couldn't attend the games, her absence was deeply felt, and her friends affectionately called her Sparkplug. Once again, a big thank you to Serenity Retirement Residence that provided amazing care to our mother. Whenever we needed assistance from Serenity, our concerns were addressed even before we finished the sentence. It gave us great comfort to know how well she was being taken care of. She enjoyed her new home, and that meant the world to us. Mom also had a special relationship with her caregivers, and I think they appreciated her as much as she appreciated them. Back in the condo, Mom would offer full-size Kit Kat bars to everyone who came. From the nurses to the PSWs, life labs, oxygen supply delivery people. In fact, sometimes we heard they would fight over who would get to come to see Barb because she was so nice to deal with. And of course, the Kit Kats were a big part of that. They went over really well. In fact, we brought some full-size Kit Kat bars to share with you today in honor of Mom's generous spirit, a sweet reminder of her thoughtfulness and appreciation. Both Carol and I held such pride in our mother and the way she embraced every stage of her life. She had a challenging beginning, but throughout her life, we knew her as someone who was very healthy and rarely even got a cold. It was only when she turned 80 that she started to have heart issues again. In her final years, both Carol and I offered her considerable support, but she made it so much easier for us because of her cheerful demeanor and constant gratitude for all we did for her. As we gather to celebrate her legacy, we are reminded of the countless lives she touched and the community she built. In every conversation and shared memory today, her spirit shines brightly. It is a comfort to know that her influence continues to resonate within the walls of Gulco, her faith community, her caregivers, her friends and family, and beyond. She cultivated friendships that transcended the workplace and neighborhood, reminding us of the warmth and love she imparted. Mom's resilience was nothing short of inspiring, an incredible reminder that even in the face of adversity, we can rise again, stronger than before. She faced adversity with grace, offered her love, and taught us that strength isn't just in the body, it's in the spirit that refuses to back down. But perhaps what we will remember most vividly is her boundless compassion for others. She had an uncanny ability to see the struggles and joys of those around her, and she reached out with kindness and understanding, leaving an indelible mark on all our hearts. Let us carry forward her legacy, cherishing the lessons she taught us, lessons of love, resilience, hope, and the incredible power of a compassionate heart. Together, let us honor her memory by living our lives with the same strength and courage that she embodied every single day. Thank you, Mom, for every lesson, every hug, and every unforgettable moment. As the saying goes, a mother is she that can take the place of all others, but whose place no one else can take. Mom, you are deeply and profoundly missed, but your love will forever resonate in our hearts. Rest in peace, knowing that you made this world a far better place just by being you.
As Lorraine has said, Barb had a strong faith community, first in her days in Scarborough and again when she found her local community here in Barrie. And we're so pleased to welcome so many of her friends here today. And we've invited Larry O'Regan, a minister of Barb's faith, to speak on their behalf. Larry?
Thank you. I do remember going to see your mom a few times, and Kit Kat bars and bottles of water were offered before we left. Yeah, she was, in her last days, she often felt bad that some of those things weren't around. So one of the, I guess, I represent the ministry that she came to know. We often go out in twos around Ontario. So my colleague is here today. And we try to represent the way Jesus lived. Like in the Gospels, Jesus sent forth two to a particular place, and he called them, and they lived by the word. Like it tells us that Jesus, he was the Word of God made flesh, and so he sends forth those out into this world the same way, with the Word of God inside of them. And the best way to explain that is in one of the scriptures. It says, Paul planted, Apollos watered, and God gave the increase. So there were those she met in the beginning that planted. So they had the Word of God, and she listened to them and eventually believed and accepted that word into her life and lived by it. But then the ministry just doesn't stop after someone believes, but then there's the watering. So it's like, so she continued to go to gospel meetings and fellowship meetings, and she benefited by the word. It kept her going, and of course she finished well. We know that God can keep, like she was kept by the word of God, even though she wasn't able to get out anymore. We know God, like there's an expression we hear often, you keep the faith, and then when you're not able to keep the faith, God will keep you. So that's kind of, and so there was a verse that came to mind, 1 Peter 3, verse 4. It says, in one of the English versions, it says, you should clothe yourselves with the beauty that comes within, the unfading beauty of a gentle, quiet spirit, which is so precious to God. So, like, I remember a few weeks ago we heard at another funeral, the minister was commending the lady, and I feel we can say the same thing. I feel like Barb was blessed with a good human nature, good personality, and then it's like, then she received the Spirit of God, and it only enhanced what she previously had. So that's the beauty of the Spirit of God. So anyways, so like you heard, she went to a house meeting in Barrie, and some of those people wrote a few messages that I'd like to share. Now, we might repeat ourselves a few times because it's several individuals that wrote these messages. It was a privilege for us to be able to drive Barb to and from meeting. It gave us that little extra time to get to know her, for which we were so grateful. We loved her very much and felt so loved in return. We will always be glad for our visits when she lived at Serenity. What a special lady she was. Barb meant so much to us. We didn't know her for all that many years, but she brought light and love into our lives. We remember picking her up for a meeting and how grateful she was. She was so loving and thoughtful. She took the time to know the names of our family members she hadn't met and always asked after them. She was an example to us in love and grace. We loved her so much, and we know how much she loved and cared for us. In the past year or two, we were grateful for emails. We shared what our family was up to, and she shared what hers was up to. She loved her family so much and was so proud of them, especially her grandchildren. She will be greatly missed, and we are grateful for the impact she had on our lives. She was incredibly helpful in meetings. She had such a good understanding of the living Christ-like filled life. Barb, like everybody else, had her struggles, but she was so thankful for life and her children and how everything was good. It seems like God heard her prayer. She didn't know what she was looking for, but she was full of thankfulness. God saw her precious heart and led her to people who loved God's word and people she could have fellowship with. How she came to this fellowship is such a miracle in my thoughts. She was actually looking for something better, a way to be thankful. In these last years, she had a lot of health struggles, but her attitude was still so positive. She loved the Wednesday Bible studies and sending in her thoughts, even though sometimes it was so hard for her to see and even type. She never gave up. Also, the Sunday morning testimonies. She was frustrated when her eyes wouldn't let her send her messages, but she loved to hear everyone's thoughts and added her precious comments as we reviewed them in the last weeks. We feel so fortunate to have known Barb. We would often comment after seeing or receiving an email from her how kind and sweet she was. If we had to describe Barb in one word, I think it would be grateful. Barb consistently expressed thankfulness for the blessings in her life. Her husband, her wonderful daughters, those helping her to care for her, fellowship meetings, and her relationship with God. She truly lived a life of gratitude, and this is such a wonderful quality and example to live by. Barb has been a wonderful lady filled with a desire to love God. In many visits, in person and by phone, she would speak about hymns she loved and the Bible. These were such a joy to her. One of the hymns, number 32, "In Jesus we have found the way, which leads to God an endless day. While here on earth he lends us breath, we will be true till death." When Barb wasn't strong enough, especially during the last few years of her life, when the testimonies from the meetings were emailed to her, she remarked to me, "That fed my heart." Barb had a heart and appreciated the help of others. She appreciated the help of her daughters and others who helped her. Their kindness meant a lot to her. There is a verse in the Bible, Galatians 5, verse 22, that speaks about the fruit of the Spirit. It meant a lot to her. We spoke about the natural illustrations of a seed producing fruit. When an orange seed is planted, the fruit of the tree is an orange. When the seed of an apple is planted, the fruit of the tree is an apple. This is an example of God planting a seed in our hearts. When God plants the seed of his Spirit, like mentioned in John 3, verse 6, when it's planted in our heart, the fruit of that seed produced is the fruit of God's Spirit. This is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. Barb had those qualities of the Spirit in her heart, and we could see and feel that fruit when we think of her life. She had love in her heart, joy, peace, and all other pieces of the fruit. She was gentle, had faith, and all the rest of those qualities that were of the fruit of the Spirit of God. We loved Barb, and she was and glad that she has gone on to a better life, an eternal life with God. And the last one of Barb's last testimonies was Psalm 116, verse 1. "I love the Lord because he hath heard my voice and my supplications, because he hath inclined his ear unto me. Therefore will I call upon him as long as I live." And it is a psalm of gratitude, thankfulness, awareness in the power of God, his mercy, compassion, and love. The God that made heaven and earth and all things in it. What a wonderful God he is. He will be forever faithful to those who love him. How blessed we are. So true that God will be faithful to those that are faithful to him. And I'm sure you can get a copy of this from Donna if you wish to have it in letter form. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, and thanks for everybody who wrote those words today. I'd like to ask Ron Sayers to come up. Ron is Barb's brother, much younger brother, and so he's going to go up and share his thoughts at this time. Ron.
We were all aware of Barb's failing health over the past several months. She beat the odds several times in the past, making it through hospital stays and a recent bout with COVID. So having said that, we hoped she would beat the odds again. When we heard that Barb had passed, I was somewhat shocked of losing my one and only sister. Over the years, we've kept regular contact over the phone or by visiting her. Several times we spoke to her, and she expressed that she was so proud of her daughters, Lorraine and Carol, for the support they gave to her and to her late husband, Al. That support continued after Al's passing, looking after her affairs. Visiting her often, taking her to the hospital or doctor's appointments, to mention just a few. She was so excited when asked to come to a family dinner, and on some occasions seeing her granddaughters and great-grandsons, which she was so proud of. She will be sadly missed by all her family and friends. She was a great lady, to say the least. When our mother died in 1989, some family members said that we had lost the person that was the chief communicator for the family. They were wrong, as Barb assumed that role of being mother hen for the family. She would call family members, and they would call her on a regular basis, and this went on throughout her life. She was a go-to person for the family, keeping family up to date. Barb had many great qualities. To mention a few, she was intelligent, she was likable, lovable, hardworking, compassionate, considerate, and sympathetic. As an example of being compassionate and sympathetic, when her brother Herb's wife died, she was there to console him during the grieving process, to give him support that he needed. But it didn't end there. She invited Herb up for supper, and that was a decade or longer tradition that was started. Herb would go up every night for dinner, arriving around 5 p.m. and staying till 9 or 10 at night. On a few occasions, Barb invited us down to have dinner with them. While eating dinner, Herb's head would be bent over the plate, eating everything on the plate. He didn't talk while eating, only concentrating on finishing off that plate of food. After dinner, both he and Al would retire to the armchairs. Herb would talk mostly about politics while enjoying each other's company. Al would then doze off, and Herb soon followed, unless there was something of interest on TV. Meanwhile, Barb would be doing the dinner cleanup. A woman's work is never done. Talking to Barb on the phone the next day, she said that that was a typical night for them. When Herb was on his deathbed, Barb and the daughters were there arranging for PSW support, among other things, giving Herb the opportunity to die at his house, as that's what he wanted. And Barb also had the chance to die on her own terms, with her daughters by her side. So in closing, my sister, now at peace and free of life's challenges, all the family loved you. God bless Barb. May she rest in peace. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. With Ron today are his son, John, and daughter-in-law, Norma, and their twins, Gabriella and Daniela. And Gabriella and Daniela are going to share their thoughts about their great aunt now. Come on up, guys.
Hello, everyone. We are Gabriella and Daniela, Aunt Barb's great nieces. Even though she was technically our dad's aunt and our grandfather's sister, to us she was just Aunt Barb, someone who was always loving and kind. Losing someone we care about is never easy. It's something we all know will happen one day. But when the time comes, it's hard to say goodbye. When we found out Aunt Barb had passed, we felt deeply sad knowing she wouldn't be there with us anymore. Even though in our sadness, we were very grateful for the times we had with her, for the memories she gave us, and for the love she shared with so many people. We prayed that day. We thanked God for her life and asked for comfort in our sadness. But we also felt peace, knowing she was reunited with her parents, her husband, and her brothers. We knew how much joy that reunion would bring her, and thought that thought gave us comfort. Aunt Barb was such a caring person. She showed love to everyone in our family, our parents, grandparents, and uncle. With us, she always made us feel special. Over the years, she never forgot our birthdays and Christmases. She always sent us thoughtful cards and gifts. The last time we talked to her was on her 90th birthday. She told us how proud she was of us and how happy she was to hear about our sports competitions. It made us so happy to bring her joy. Aunt Barb, we love you and will always hold you in our hearts. Thank you for being such a special part of our lives.
Thanks, guys. That's beautiful. Many of Barb's nieces and nephews have sent stories and thoughts. We've brought these together, and I'll read that from that collection of thoughts now. One of the qualities that demonstrates Barb's caring nature is the strong bond she shared with family members and friends. At this time, we'll share the reflections from Barb's nieces and nephews, who affectionately referred to her as Aunt Barb or Auntie Babsy. Thank you all for sending these in to Lorraine or to Carol and sharing them in your conversations. One cherished memory from Mom's nephew, Jim, who's here, was when Aunt Barb and Uncle Al traveled to Apsley to assist during his mom, Grace's final days. Their presence, filled with support and love, was a great comfort during such a challenging time and meant so much to everyone involved. Aunt Barb had shared a deep and enduring friendship with Grace that spanned many years. You'll see Grace in a couple of the photos that we shared today. Jim also recounts the countless calls with him over the years and how involved Aunt Barb was in every conversation. As he says, she was an excellent conversationalist, always inquiring about our lives and genuinely concerned for our well-being. And she also had a wonderful sense of humor, which Jim says both Carol and Lorraine inherited. Jim recalls being at Lorraine's for the wedding shower of Andrew and Bri, and he and Gary were chatting with Mom when they started just moving their lips, mouthing the words, silently, as if they were having a conversation. Aunt Barb instinctively reached up for the controls on her hearing aid, thinking she might not have turned it up high enough because she couldn't hear what they were saying. Then it dawned on her nephews were having her on and were teasing, and they all shared a good laugh. She was a real sport about it. Jim also said that Aunt Barb meant a lot to his dad, her brother Bill, and they had many talks over the years. She made a special effort to see him toward the end of his life, and that was very comforting. Jim adds that he will miss his Aunt Barb, but is grateful for all of the memories he has of her, and that we are all better for having her in our lives. Mom's nephew Paul, from the Harvey side of the family, has shared some poignant reflections about Aunt Barb, highlighting her incredible bravery. As Lorraine had said, despite having childhood heart issues and undergoing heart surgery, she went on to have a family, even though doctors warned it could jeopardize her health. Others have echoed this sentiment, emphasizing that she was always eager to embrace life and make the most of every moment. Paul also recollects Aunt Barb's close relationship with each of his parents, Phyllis and Gord. Along with Paul, we miss having our parents' generation around, but their influence remains. Mom's nephew, Gord, also from the Harvey side of the family, remembers Mom as a gentle, caring woman who was always generous in sharing her thoughts and was truly interested in everyone's lives. He adds that Aunt Barb and Uncle Al were both very special, and their kindness and generosity will always stay with us. Every year at Christmas, Gord and family reminisce about the thrill of receiving a thoughtfully chosen package in the mail, always well thought out and, of course, previously tested to make sure it was in perfect working order. As many of you would not find surprising, Uncle Al always put things through a rigorous testing before sending, and you could count on fresh batteries being in the pack. Mom's niece, Patty Sayers, also had a special relationship with her Auntie Babsy. For Barb's 90th birthday, Patty created a heartfelt and personal way to honor the milestone. She chose to share 90 reasons why she cherished Barb so much. And each week, Patty would call or email Barb to convey 5 of those reasons. This lovely tradition not only allowed Patty to express her love and gratitude, but also gave Auntie Babsy a chance to reflect on and discuss the treasured memories they shared over the years. I'm going to close these reflections with this piece written by Patty, sharing her thoughts and those of her siblings, Dana and Stephen. Sometimes you're lucky in life to have a person that provides you with a steady, loving presence through many different phases of your life. A person that lets you know you are important to them. Someone that is always wanting the best for you. A person that you can count on to be there when you need a little lift, a little laugh, a little dinner, a little advice. That was my Auntie Babsy. She was that person to me. In my childhood, Auntie Babsy and her family moved right next door to me and my family. This physical presence allowed a closer bond and relationship to form between us. It didn't matter that as a young adult, I moved away from being her next-door neighbor. The mold was set, and for years I benefited and enjoyed this close relationship that was formed in my youth and grew over time. As I'm sure many have done, time has been spent over the past few weeks reminiscing about Auntie Babsy. Speaking with my brother and sister, we talked about experiences we had in common and experiences that were ours alone, but they all led us to the same place, the core of who Auntie Babsy was as a person. Kind and caring with her words of praise and support to family and friends. Hardworking and eager to master and excel at new skills. She knew just the right way to behave or the right thing to say in any type of social situation. She was a friend and supporter to people in need where she quietly, kindly, and without complaint went about doing for others what she felt was needed. She was a knower of all things related to her large extended family because she took the time to stay in touch and maintain relationships with everyone. She was a giver of time and good advice and generous in all ways. It's always hard to accept the finality that death brings, and I'll miss Auntie Babsy's physical presence, but I also feel comforted when I think of the many years that I was lucky to have had her involved in my life, and feel that if I can keep following the example she set, she'll always be with me. Thanks, Patty, for sharing those thoughts. And thank you to everyone who shared messages through the funeral home website, through your emails, phone calls, and messages, and through the sentiments shared today. One of our last reflections today will come from Alex, one of our kids, one of Barb's 2 grandchildren, and Alex will share some thoughts now.
Yes, I am Barb's granddaughter, Alex. And one of my earliest memories one of the ones with a lot of nostalgia around it, is of my grandmother's house on Balaclava Drive. I'm lying in bed. Andrew is in the matching bed on the other side of the room we always shared there. And Grandma is singing us to sleep. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. When we were younger, she took me on adventures in Toronto, riding the bus together to shop or explore. And when we were older, she'd come to family dinners all set with political questions that she wanted my take on. She stayed informed, she stayed interested and curious about the world, about the future, and as we've heard, about people. She told me once that she couldn't understand how people can sometimes be so hateful. I think that she believed and truly lived by the word of love thy neighbor, and she built connections and community wherever she went. We've heard a lot of those connections today. I'll remember Christmases around the tree in her and Grandpa's house. I'll remember the way she laughed and said, "Oh my," when she got a nice surprise, and the way she said, "I love you." And I'll remember her singing, "You Are My Sunshine," while I fell asleep. Thank you.
So that pretty much completes our formal celebration of Barb Harvey's life. We hope you'll join us downstairs for a reception shortly where we can continue to share stories and to celebrate Barb together. I'd like to close with the quote that Carol and Lorraine selected for the back of Barb's tribute card that you'll see at the front. We don't know the author of the reading, but appreciate the message. It's hard when you miss someone, but that ache in your heart is a testament to the beauty they brought into your life. Missing someone means you were fortunate enough to share a bond so profound that their absence is felt deeply. It reminds you of moments filled with joy, love, and connection. Cherish the memories, for they are proof of a life enriched by meaningful relationships. Missing someone is not just sorrow, it's a celebration of having loved and being loved in return. And that'll close our ceremony today. We'll close with a song that Mom used to like hearing our kids play at the piano, and then we will retire downstairs to the reception. And yes, you will find full-size Kit Kat bars on the way out, although she would have had them refrigerated. Thank you.